Now for some terminology. So you're gonna hear sweat a lot. Whenever you hear sweat or cupped, it means solder. Now these fittings over here are all sweat fittings or cup fittings. Pretty much two pieces go together and these are joined together with solder. Other fittings that you're gonna see in the hardware store is gonna be threaded fittings or threaded adapters. However, some threaded adapters needs to be soldered together first. Now threaded adapters are also commonly called pressure adapters. Now when it's the threaded adapter, the side with the external threads is going to be the male and the internal threads is going to be the female. Now these right here is called the T couplers. Now they're T because they have 3 sides you can solder onto, and it comes in different varieties. All 3 could be 3/4, or like this one is 2 part 3/4, and then you see a 1/2 inch coming out. This is a 3-way 1/2 inch. Now this fitting is perfect if you have an existing line and you want to tee off and make a new line, like a new kitchen or something. You cut this and you solder this one in, and now you could branch off to wherever you need. Now let's go over the copper tubings that you're going to see in the hardware store. Now the 2 most common size that you're going to see is the 3/4 and the 1/2 inch. The 3/4 you're going to see as your main pipe coming into your house. For newer houses, you might see a 1 inch before the 3/4. Now when it comes to your kitchen, restroom, or sinks, anything like that, you're going to see a 1/2 inch. Now for copper tubings, there's actually 2 types. One is the M series and one is the L series. The M series is the most common in indoors. Now the M is thinner than the L series. This one over here is the M series. Now you see how thin the copper, the sidewalls are. I have a piece of L series. L is usually used for underground if you were to bury this underground. Now for the L series, you're going to see a blue color. For the M series, you're going to see red, but this one's all worn out. But when you go to the hardware store, you're going to see either 2 types. Now the M will always be cheaper than the L series. As of now, a 10-foot long L series is about $20 at Home Depot. If you were to get the M series, it's $16 for 10 foot. Now the thickness for the M series is about 32 thousandths. For the L series is 45 thousandths, and that's the difference. And the price difference, you're pretty much just paying for more copper. It's not necessary to use the L for indoors, but I've seen some houses that do because they just have the money to spend. Alright, let's go over the fittings. Now there's no order to this, I'm just going to freestyle this. Now these 2 right here are repair couplings. And I bought these for in case there's a pinhole in one of these pipes and I could actually cut in between it and slip this through. If I were to have a leak right here, I could cut this right here, slip it in, and I'll solder both joints. So this is a repair coupling. These right here are called elbows. And then they're gonna call it sweat elbows or cup elbows. Whenever you hear sweat or cup, that means you have to solder. Now I have a 45-degree elbow right here. Next thing you'll see are the T fittings. T fittings will always have 3-part shaped like a T. Now these are couplings, so if you were to have a leak, you could just cut it just like a repair fitting and slide it through. But one thing that's different about this is there's a notch here. If you were to stick this pipe through, it won't go all the way in. It'll stop right at the notch. That way people will know that they're at the middle. Now one thing weird about this is this one doesn't have a notch. And this is twice as much. This is actually $2 and this is $1. So they spent more labor making this notch and it's cheaper than the one without. Now if you're stuck with this and you want to go through, you can actually use a little file and file this out. See, this one without a stopper, you could go straight through, versus this one with the stopper, you can only go halfway. So be careful. At Home Depot, they're going to mix this up in the box and then you might overpay for one. Now these are called threaded couplings or threaded adapters. The ones with the outside threads is going to be the male end, and the inside thread is going to be a female end. And you're going to see that it's going to say sweat male adapter, which means it's threaded on one end and the other end needs to be sweated, which is soldered. These are copper straps. Now it's very important to use copper straps. These do make a little noise, so I recommend using the plastic ones or the rubber ones. Now for the plastic strap, this is copper, so if you're joining copper to copper, you're fine. Now if you use regular metal screws, you'll start corroding this strap, so that's why you need the copper nails, copper or brass nails. This right here is a stopper. So for example, if you were to install one of these into one of your lines and you want an opening for future projects, you want to have another water line, you can put a tube and you solder this cap closed. Once you close this up, it'll seal as if it's just a coupler. Now when you desolder this, now you have a new pipe that you can install and branch off for your whatever you need. Another thing you're going to see is going to be a union. A union is usually two pieces that threads together. This is a dielectric union. So if you have an old house that has galvanized pipes, you're going to need a dielectric union to separate the copper and the galvanized, or else it'll start corroding on you. I made another video about this, so look it up and it explains a lot more about it. So this piece over here will thread onto your galvanized pipe. This gasket is what's going to separate the galvanized and this copper. For this, you will have to solder your copper into this before installing.